What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Jump to Start Racing podcast. My name is Wellington. I'm here with two friends.
Again, bro.
I'm willing to
we
trade
hang
them
out
away.
with you
I'm
all
willing
weekend.
to trade them away.
And
We're not NFTs.
you know what,
No,
bro?
Ruben, say hello.
What's going on, guys?
Yhancy.
Hi.
He's upset. On today's episode, we'll talk about the Russian Grand Prix, and we agree it's the greatest Russian Grand Prix we've ever seen.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Absolutely,
I
100%.
think anybody has ever seen.
We'll talk about a little bit of news, including a little bit of Miami action,
Yeah.
a little bit of Netflix action,
Yeah.
and in general, let me start off by asking Ruben. Ruben, how was your weekend, dude?
It was actually very good. I spent Sunday with you guys. So
That's why it was good.
You guys woke me up on Sunday morning. Wellington brought bagels. Yhancy just brought himself, but
Is that not enough?
no. But he didn't drink coffee in my house, so he was just eating Wellington's bagels.
Yeah, you too today, man. Oh, damn. I got you.
It's the Casamigos talking.
There you go. How was your weekend?
I had a great weekend until we got to Sunday
Why is
What?
that?
because the race was great, but you two guys sucked.
Wow.
Whoa. Today we do, not Sunday.
I was ready to freaking sing your praises today, but you guys are just shitting all over me today.
Beep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could be worse. You guys could be Giants fans, but I'll leave it at that. My New York Football Giants not doing all that well.
I'm in my feelings right now. Wellington, you in your feelings right now about them Giants?
Extremely. So before we jump in, I want to just obviously get our socials out at Jump to Start F1 on Instagram and Twitter. Please stop in, say hello. At Jump to Start F1, just to repeat it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, and Stitcher. Those are the podcast platforms you could find us in, and we're also on YouTube. Hello.
Wave high.
If you've seen more than one video of ours, please, drop a like, comment, subscription, whatever. If you could, I'm down.
Ding.
Yeah. And on that note, let's get going. The news going into this weekend. We'll start off with this one. Ferrari debuted an updated F1 hybrid system at the Russian Grand Prix.
Wait.
Gentlemen, a short
missed that.
view
No.
back
That's
to
for the.
past.
We're
Oh,
talking
that's
about
a
the
race.
news.
My bad.
Man. Okay.
That Casamigos hit hard.
Yeah. So Ferrari. Oh man. Okay. Yancy, take us away. What happened here?
Ferrari introduced a new hybrid system. Now, Ferrari had said that obviously you get one big upgrade per year. You can introduce it anytime during the year. Obviously, right before Spa, Honda introduced their new battery. So that was their upgrade to their engine. Ferrari just introduced a new hybrid system, which gives it a little bit more power. But they chose not to. They chose to do it just to Leclerc's car. They haven't given it to Sainz yet. So that's the reason why Leclerc started the race in 18th. And the reason why they're doing that, obviously, is because going forward, they want to get some data on the power unit for next year. So they want a few races to study that power unit, make sure it's good, and also to make any changes to it. I mean, to see what are the positives, what are the negatives, so going into next year, they can fix those problems.
So it was a boost of less than 10 horsepower, basically, to what they had.
Yeah, which is, considering that these units are all coming together, 10 horsepower is a good amount.
Substantial.
So substantial.
So,
And considering how far that engine has come already,
yeah.
considering how it was last year,
And considering,
pretty good.
it cheated a couple years ago.
Yep.
Anything else of note there, Ruben? Not really, right?
Not really.
haters, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Netflix. Everybody's favorite streaming service. Well, most people's favorite streaming service. There was a rumor out there that they were thinking about an F1 buyout to be able to stream the races. So I'm choosing my words very carefully. Netflix wanted the rights to be able to stream the races, but Ruben, what was their criteria to be able to even get to that point?
Well, they're saying that if they would to go that route, they would have to own the platform altogether. So pretty much be owners of, pretty much what Liberty Media did.
Yeah.
That to own F1, and that'd be tough because I don't think Liberty Media wants to sell now. So. But they did not. They were not in the position to do it, or they were not into F1. I guess as much as they didn't see the product the way they do now when it was up for sale. So they were never part of the bidding process back then anyway. So
You think it's gained value since it was up for sale from Liberty?
I think so. Here in the U.S., yeah.
Maybe. I think there's an F1 stock, actually. Maybe you could check.
It definitely, well, we can check that, but I think it definitely has. As far as value, I mean, obviously they have a higher social media presence, which is good. They did the whole rebranding with the new logo.
Thanks, Bernie.
They obviously the regulations are coming into play this year, but you can now say, I think that the road that they're heading down is that these franchises, basically the teams, are going to be more valuable because they are not going to be put in the position where every year they got to fight just to stay in the sport. And I think that's the road that F1 is heading down. So I think it's definitely got more value. Obviously, the reason why Netflix, they said they would think about it, but it's not like Amazon, who's gotten into contracts with, with the NFL or any other live sport. They want to be able to, not that they control it, because obviously you think of Netflix and you think that maybe they might want to manipulate it for their show, but that's not the case. What they want to do is that, obviously, if they control the rights, if they want to show live tapings of the races, they want to make sure that Formula One doesn't have any other contracts with anybody else. So that's, which is, in a business sense, makes sense. So
I wish they could just develop a competent app. That would be so nice, so that we can actually watch, F1 TV being a disaster as it is. Next piece of information here: the Miami Grand Prix. The dates have been confirmed. It's very near. I feel like we talk about it every week, but it's very near and dear to our hearts because we're in the U.S. It's going to be held May 6th through 8th. Traditional weekend, no sprint race. Good timing. It puts us before Monaco, before Spain, before Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also signals there'll be 3 trips to the, I guess, North and Central America. Any thoughts? Any further thing to talk about here?
Well, now we know when to buy our ticket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better get ready.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody here in the U.S. any F1 fan here in the U.S. is pretty excited about it. Miami's a great city. It's fun. The weather's great. The beaches are awesome. Great club city if you want to go the nightlife. And just to watch, the track looks cool, so I think it's gonna promote good racing, especially with the new Cars Cup coming next year. I can't wait, man. I'm definitely, you never want to say that you're definitely gonna go, but we have our sights on it, so definitely want to go.
And it gives us hope of maybe go to Miami and Canada since they're far apart, like a month apart. It looks like they're gonna be.
I don't know. I have a boss. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. You guys, that's.
Well, May 6th, beginning of June, put the vacation in now. Who's going to deny you that? And kill a cousin. Right, Yhancy, kill a cousin or something.
Come on, bro.
Make it happen.
You guys are going from friends to, like, acquaintances.
You started it.
And then the last piece of information going into the race, obviously we talked about Leclerc's power unit. Max Verstappen was also switching his power unit, as well as Nicholas Latifi, but obviously more important. Mm-hmm. Max Verstappen now was starting from the back of the grid. It was a penalty that we knew had to show up at some point. We thought it was going to happen at Monza, but in the next couple of races, and we saw how it played out. So.
What?
Oh, I thought you were signaling.
No, I do want to say something.
So go ahead.
No, but you were saying so I thought I was going to let you finish. But no, it was, as we get more into knowing F1 and stuff like that. At the beginning, it was like, but why these guys are getting replacement engines? After, I guess the announcement of Verstappen, but they're starting before him. But then it was because of the grip penalty he got from Monza. He was still at the back.
He's still at the back.
Mm-hmm.
So. What was it like? Fernando Alonso had like 47 grid place penalty, like back in the GP.
That's what the
McLaren days,
Honda McLaren days.
Yeah. So
that never made any sense. Thank God. I'm glad they got rid of that.
Stoffel Van Dorn, another like 50 replace. Anyway,
So crazy.
so the other, Latifi, obviously it's a throwaway in the grand scheme of the race itself, but it points to reliability issues with the engine. And actually, during the race weekend, Bottas had to also take a engine penalty, grid place penalty. It's only a matter of time, right, before Hamilton has to replace his engine, or is it something that maybe the reliability? Because at the end of the day, right, Bottas took damage to his car. Verstappen took a ton of damage to his car. Paris already took an engine penalty. He took a bunch of damage to his car. Hamilton hasn't really had that much. I don't know. Is it something related to the crashes, or is it just the wear on the engines?
I thought the Bottas switching his engine again because he had it in Monza was just strategically, a strategy coming to play to block Hamilton, to block Max. That's what the way I took it as. But you guys, the Latifi thing makes you change your opinion a little bit about the engine reliability. But
there's been rumors up and down the paddock that the Mercedes engines are suffering from reliability, especially as we're getting to the latter stages. And obviously, we know that as that engine wears out, it does, like, the curve of diminishing returns is sharp with the Mercedes engines. Always has been. Once they get a new one, it's in. The issue now is that you only get 3 per year. So once you start getting that 4th one, then you got to start taking penalties. And, we know, Max already took his. We know Hamilton at one point has to take his.
If he has to.
We just hope that one of those engines doesn't blow up during a race or something.
That's the gamble you take.
Especially for the front run.
Has there ever been a time that you're watching a race that Hamilton starts to the back or falls to the back that you don't believe that he could not win that race?
As long as he's in a Mercedes, no.
He's always been in a Mercedes.
He's always been in a Mercedes engine car.
Well, I'm talking about a works Mercedes.
Okay. So like this year is what, yeah.
Well, the past few years have been that way. I mean, why would you doubt it?
Well, that's my point. If he were to take the engine penalty, I don't really think it's going to matter. Not as much as, say, a Verstappen taking or a Bottas.
Well, it depends on the
Bottas
track.
this weekend. Nowhere.
Depends on the track. I think if he has to take an engine penalty, it's definitely going to be a track where they can overtake. So, I mean, you're not going to do it at Abu Dhabi, even though that's the last race of the year. But you're not going to do it at a track that's full of slow corners. You're going to do it at a track where there's,
Turkey.
You can do Turkey. You could do the U.S. also.
Hello. And with that said, that ends our news segment. So, Ruben, hit the drop.
Now at the right time.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
Oh, I forgot. I got to memorize it. Niki Lauda once said, you can train a monkey and put him in the car.
Oh, he got 5 words.
He's getting better.
All right, so we talked about the Bottas penalty. What were your thoughts on that? Just, to me, it's just a technical issue. They had to replace it. Nothing strategic.
No, I thought it was strategic. I don't see... If you put... I mean, obviously, they know Max is going to start at the back. Mm-hmm. They obviously want to hold him up as much as possible so he doesn't get a huge run up the field because you want to prevent points. They obviously knew that they... I mean, this is what, his 5th engine this year?
Bottas, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, they obviously knew that they had to replace it. So, obviously, it's probably a technical thing, too. It's just a win-win. It's like, if you have one situation where the engine is not as reliable as you want it to be, and you can take the penalty anyways because Bottas is not really in the championship fight, and you're fairly confident that Bottas can get up there into the points, at least to maximize the points for the team. And at the same time, you have Verstappen, sitting at the back, and he really has. If he just gets a clean run through the field where there's no other car similar to him that can stop him with similar speed, if you can impede him a little bit, yeah. Obviously, it didn't work.
It never works for Bottas.
Yeah.
He never...
Because Bottas is not
he's like a
Ricardo or
turnstile,
Alonso.
dude.
Because he's not a great defender.
Right,
He
so
never
like
has
that's what I'm
been.
saying. Like, you guys are saying this stuff, and I'm like, what are you guys even
Yeah,
talking
but
about?
it doesn't. Listen. It doesn't matter. It's one of those things where at least you try. You
That's what they
take
went
the
for.
shot because at the same time, If you're Toto Wolff, you're gonna say, Valtteri, I have no confidence in you that you can defend them. Just go
Go to the back.
No.
Help the team. That's it. He tried.
Here's how you help the team, right? If it was done supposedly just for strategy purposes, here's how you help the team. Valtteri, this is the best track that you race at, like, in your career. A 1-2 would have been more valuable than trying to hold them up, because you don't know where Max is going to end up. You don't know about the rain, whatever. But if you could get your two guys 1-2 in a track that you've won 100% of the races, that to me is more valuable than maybe potentially holding them up with a guy that's not that defensive of a driver. I don't know.
That does make more sense.
It does make more sense, but then again, Mercedes hasn't always made the right.
Tinfoil hat time.
Yeah, but Mercedes hasn't always made the right decisions anyway.
Especially this year.
Yep.
So I mean, they're really showing cracks in the armor, especially under pressure from Red Bull. So maybe they did. We're never gonna know. But you're right. Yeah, that's fairly plausible as well.
You're right. My favorite.
We don't know you're totally right, but you could be right.
So FP3 was canceled due to heavy rain. Probably something that a positive that came out of this year's Spa is that now they're going to be watching out for it. They're not going to put the drivers at risk if it's obviously terrible conditions.
No, but this track was getting like flooded. Like the F2 paddock was flooded. Like people literally they were having rain boots on to be able to walk.
After Spa we stopped doing rain dances because we knew what. I mean, we like to see wet races because obviously what happened this weekend, but when it gets to like Spa, like typhoons, we don't want to see that.
Qualifying Q3 also heavily affected by the rain. It brought up, it shook up the order. But what I kind of wanted to bring up is that we're starting to see exactly what Yhancy says, some chinks in the armor. So Q3 starts, Russell does, I guess, his warm-up lap. It comes right in, he says, I'm going to slicks right away. Or
because that's what it was. It was because the session started off wet, so everybody was on intermediates.
Yeah.
Q1, Q2 was all through intermediates. And as Q3 approached, that's when you had the crossover where it stopped raining. And then they were just waiting for, obviously, if you run the cars enough times with those intermediate tires, even rain tires, but in this case it's intermediates, if you run them enough times, they're going to clear the track because those tires are made to move gallons and gallons of water off the track. And especially if it stops raining.
Then the heat that it puts into the track, it's going to just evaporate the water.
Right. So the crucial point is that as they went out in Q3, everybody went out for the most part, everybody went out on intermediates just to see how the track was. But also, they also see if that intermediate tire starts wearing fast, that means that the track is dry enough and you can put on the slicks. So, and then the first one, obviously, to do that was George Russell. Go ahead, Will.
Right, so George Russell comes in, pits for the slicks, kind of setting off the chain reaction of everybody else pitting for slicks, except for Lewis Hamilton, who does not only his banker lap, which is what you call when you put in your first lap, get a good enough time so in case something happens.
Which everybody, I think, did that at that point.
Not the only one that didn't do it was George.
Okay.
Then he does. I think he went to do another lap and then pit towards the end of the session. And what ends up happening, he drives, hits the pit wall, has to change his whole front wing. Affects Valtteri Bottas when he comes in for his pit to be able to switch into the slicks.
Because they had to push the car out
of the pit box.
They had to push his car out of the pit box. Bottas comes in, changes his tires. Bottas goes out, and they have to push him back to the pit box to work on the car.
And at that time, if he did not crash or broke his wind, they would have had enough time to change to slicks and do 2 laps. Because remember, everybody for the slicks to catch, they were doing 2 laps first, like a lap, just I guess another one to really warm up the tire and then go for it. Mm-hmm. That's what he wasn't able to do.
Yeah, they have to do an out lap.
Because when George Russell switched to slicks, it didn't look like he was ready for slicks yet because he was slipping all over the place.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously helped him as well because the tires did not degrade that much. He was able to continue.
Yeah. Right, because you have to get the tires up to a certain temperature for them to start getting.
And the track being wet doesn't allow the temperature to really
rise,
build up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, man, fucking George, excuse my French there. He's the man. No, but it was an uncharacteristic, like Yhancy had mentioned earlier, it's a chink in the armor for Mercedes, to not just Mercedes, but also Lewis Hamilton to crash into a pit wall, to then cause that reaction affecting your teammate, affecting your own qualifying, which ends up, Lewis Hamilton ended up actually putting in a pretty good lap and qualified in 4th place, a P4 as they say. It was Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, George Russell as the top 3, then Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, Stroll, Sergio Perez, and Esteban Ocon as the top 10. Verstappen, I don't even think he did a lap in Q1, right?
He did 1 lap in Q1 just to say that he participated in qualifying. But if he's starting at the back, there was no point in him even risking an accident, especially if it's a wet session. So that's what he did.
And we know Max crashes sometimes in the wet.
Into walls right before a race in Hungary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also very good in the wet too.
But
So
when he has it, yeah.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton came out and said his crash into the pit lane wall had nothing to do with pressure. Yancy, do you agree with that?
No, I so completely disagree with that. Why? We have seen this Mercedes team the past 6 years be literally bulletproof in every single sense of that word.
Except this year.
Except this year. They are on point with strategy, with their pit stops, with their with every reliability. They have been on point where it's like you just expect them to win, and if they don't win, then you're gonna be like, oh, they'll be back next week, and they're usually back next week.
I think the only thing that they've never gotten together 100% always has been the pit stops. They do average pit stops.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do, obviously like Red Bull Williams from back in the day, that they do tremendous numbers.
But
on
nowadays that doesn't matter because of the new safety regulation.
But that was where it was at. But I'm talking about with the timing issue before. So that's where always I think Red Bull did better timing than Mercedes even throughout the whole years. But as a combining the whole spectacle, the whole circle, Mercedes has been. Yeah. Except this year. This year they're the Red Bull.
This year, yeah. I mean, it seems like they're making a lot of mistakes in every sense, like in every aspect of, be it pit stop strategy, driver errors, reliability. They're making a lot of mistakes. Lewis, strangely enough, came out before the weekend and was talking about the pressure that he felt when he was going for his first championship, and in turn, it seems like gamesmanship, and in turn is that saying that maybe it was Max that was feeling the pressure, and us looking at it from the outside in, would you guys agree with me that it seems like Lewis is feeling more the pressure than Max? Max is more chilled out.
Max is never chilled out.
But I'm just saying, like, but he's being his normal self.
Correct.
He's being his normal self. The ones doing a lot of the talking is usually Mercedes and Hamilton. But Hamilton, I think, is just playing the mind games. And obviously he knows that if he says this out in public, he's going to get back to Verstappen. And obviously Verstappen responded saying, he obviously doesn't really know me if he feels that I'm feeling the pressure. Which obviously I don't see any signs of it. I see the normal Max. And that's probably, if he does win the championship, is going to be an important aspect of why he won the championship. Because obviously you have to stay cool, calm, and collected as the pressure builds in order for you to win a championship. Just like Lewis does too. But Lewis does play the little games. He did it with Rosberg.
Little darts.
He's done it with Vettel. He throws those little darts in the meeting. He knows what he's doing, and I think all the champions do that. Schumacher was the same way. Senna was the same way. All the great champions do that, and that's fine. It's your prerogative, and obviously, not only do you have to be a great driver, but you have to play the mental game. You have to play the politics. Like
package.
That's just the way this sport works. So yeah, I mean, and obviously the errors. I mean, Max has had a great season, don't get me wrong, but a lot of his stuff is like if something has gone wrong in a race for him, the two DNF. I mean, I don't know if he's had more, but the two notable DNFs, the two DNFs that he's had, haven't been his fault. The last one was in Silverstone at the British Grand Prix where he crashed with Lewis, and that was obviously deemed Lewis's fault. And then the first one was in Baku where the tire blew out on him, and he was leading that race. He was going to win that.
He actually classified in that race. He technically finished it. Italy. Okay. So he has two DNFs. One's in Italy, the other's in Great Britain.
Also, the Baku crash did not count as a.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh yeah.
No, classified, yeah. Whoa.
Well, and then the clash with Lewis. Obviously, how can I forget that? But that was also deemed Max's fault. So you can say maybe he's had, one big hiccup through the entire season. Obviously, and I was talking to Wellington, about this. I'm surprised that Max is not further ahead in the championship. And obviously, he doesn't have the lead right now. But the way he's driven this year, he should be way further ahead. I guess that's the way things work out.
The cookie crumbles. And how much is I'm going to give it to him?
I mean, think about it. If you add even 18 points to his Great Britain total, finishes second, he's way ahead. Compared to the 2 points that he's behind now, he's way ahead in the constructors or in the drivers' championship.
Yeah, and I mean he has what 1, 2. He has 7 wins this season.
He's killing it.
Yeah. Compared to Lewis Hamilton's 5 wins.
Ruben, do you think Hamilton's feeling the pressure?
I don't think so. I think just part of his game, the way.
So that's his game, crashing into pit walls?
No, but
bad starts.
Even in practice, remember he hit the jackman, and he blamed it on the magic button, whatever. Oh, sorry guys, magic. So I'm guessing it's
again.
That's why when he hit the guy with the jack, that's what he said. Sorry guys, magic. So I think
sprint race bad start.
He's just showing, hey, Max, I'm beatable, but you just can't beat me yet. Because I am making mistakes.
I'll tell you what.
No, he is making mistakes, but I think it's also, if he was feeling the pressure, I don't think he would throw it straight at Max the way he threw it like that. I think Max is feeling the pressure. It's just to get to Max's head. How do I get into this kid's head to break him?
Yeah, but
Max is cool. As far as Max is just has an eye on the target. Can he be better? Yes, but he has the eye on the target, and he's just there. Like I think this is the most, I would say, the best he has handled it, Max, the way, all the situations that happened to him before he would lash out, more. I mean, we used to the way he lashed on the radio anyway, so.
If he's feeling the pressure, and this is how good Lewis Hamilton is, he's still leading the championship. It's still 244.5 to 246.5. He took the lead again this race.
2 points.
So, if he's feeling the pressure,
I mean, obviously, if he's feeling the pressure, this weekend didn't help because Max made it all with just like
and we also have to note, as far as we're talking about feeling the pressure. There's also pressure as far as milestones are concerned because he's been sitting on 99 wins for a while.
We'll get to that.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is that that's the type of stuff as far as like when you talk about Lewis Hamilton, not only do you have the pressure of winning the championship
and being ahead,
but you also have the pressure of all these records that you're breaking and these big numbers that nobody has ever achieved before. So, and he's still handling it pretty well. He's still leading the championship.
One thing that I wanted to point out, it's now a 2-point lead, right, for Lewis Hamilton. He has 4 fastest laps to Verstappen's 3 fastest laps. So that is for sure going to come into play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, I cannot wait. Well, I'm enjoying this season as it comes to us. So the race itself, let's go from the beginning because this race was a freaking doozy, and that's a lot to say for the Russian Grand Prix, right? Right at the start of the race, we see Hamilton was 4th, right? So he was behind Lando, Carlos Sainz, and George Russell.
Yes.
Right? Lando gets off to a hot start right away, as he's done before. I don't know how he continues to do it.
It's the game.
I think it's his twitch fingers, right?
Yep.
Lewis Hamilton gets off to a pretty decent start, but he, according to what Crofty and Brundle said on the broadcast, he pulled out to the side too early and eliminated the toe So he ended up falling behind guys that stayed in line, had the toe in place, and were able to pick up more speed and more distance down to turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
He falls back. I forget how far he fell back, but
He went down to 7th.
went down to 7th. It was a little touch and go from there. Had to fight Ricardo on the way up. Had to fight everybody on the way up. Just kind of, to me, just shows what an amazing drive that was for Hamilton himself. But back to the start. Yhancy, your boy. Go ahead.
My man. Vamos!
No,
Chili.
The
not
other
him.
one.
The
The
other
other one.
The other one.
Oh, come on, man.
No. The start. Somebody that picked up 7 places.
Charlie!
I can't believe we had to walk him to that.
I thought he was going to come
Man,
up with
because you know what? I was I obviously got to. I was driving across the George Washington Bridge, and guys never do this. I was driving and I was watching it, the F1 TV app on my phone, and
Get to my
obviously,
house.
you know, Chile starting 3rd. So I'm just happy Ferrari's out in front, right?
Chile did pick up the lead.
And he
Yes.
picked up the lead, so that's why I got so excited. But then, obviously, the TV direction, and we'll talk about this later, but it was so horrible, we did not get to see, and we saw this later, the crazy start that Leclerc got.
We didn't see it later. We had to
We had to go on
had to go
YouTube
to see this. Yeah.
and see it.
Yes.
It wasn't even on a replay.
It wasn't
later on
even
in
on
the
a
race,
replay.
none of
So
that.
they
Or
did
you
the-
sent us, was it on
Yes.
YouTube?
It was a
one of those streamable things.
via a different, different stream.
Source.
But-
Source.
Yeah. But, anyways,
So we saw the start.
the Ferraris
By
got
the way,
off
that
to,
picture you showed us earlier,
I'll link it on the.
the Ferraris got off to great starts either way. I was just happy about that.
both.
Yeah.
The race starts. We go to whatever, they go around a couple turns, etc. They complete lap 1, and then they go straight to the replays. But then they literally just don't show us any. This TV director was literally the worst TV direction I've ever seen. Yeah. What are we doing here? The chili hat.
Chili.
And the 55 in the bottom.
McLaren.
One it was in McLaren.
We're showing off the hat on YouTube if you guys are not watching this.
So amazing start for Leclerc, amazing start for Carlos Sainz, Ferrari just digging in.
Alonso too.
Alonso, because he just he just was like, you know what, forget the rules, I'm just going to do what I want.
Usually, that is the best part of the Russian Grand Prix.
That you could just forget about the rules?
No,
the beginning.
meaning this the start. It's just because you just that run down to turn 2. That's when you get most of the overtakes and the important positions. Alonso actually practiced what he did during practice. A lot of people noticed, yeah, because what's the rule? If you get off track, all you got to do is go through the bollards.
Yeah.
And then you come out in front, and that's exactly what he did. He did what he had to do. And you know who else used to do that too? Roman Grosjean used to do that in the Haas. He did that one year, and he figured, you know what? If I'm gonna go off track, especially you have all these cars, concertina effect going into that one turn. Let me get off track. I go through the bollards. I'm good. I'm still gonna fight because that's probably the fastest way, anyways.
Jeez.
So
No, not being pushed. Yeah, somebody pushed me out. Who? I don't know. The wind. Somebody pushed me out. That's why I went that way. I didn't want to hit this guy. Wow.
my man, yo, the Ferraris did good though. That start, that was great. I'm happy. Let me be happy. We don't have a lot of hype.
Thank God it worked for Leclerc though, because he actually really just threw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, he
That's a big
sent
risk.
it. He sent it. He
Yes.
said it was one of those things where he's like he looked like he dive bombed the whole field.
That's what it looked like.
And at one
It
point
looked like
he
me
was,
on the game.
and at one point he was like literally next to the wall where he almost went off track. He was on the blue. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know who he was against. He was next to, but he almost went into the wall. It was crazy.
I'll tell you who he was next to.
Who?
Max Verstappen.
Bam! There
So
you go.
we were talking earlier about how Max has kept it cool, calm, and collected. The evolution of this guy as a driver, who normally there's no way he backs out of a situation like that. That's his space, whatever. But we saw it. I forget exactly who else was in that fight, but it was Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen was coming in, and Charles Leclerc almost pushed him right into the wall, almost took off his front wing, but Verstappen was able to back out of that turn or back out of that battle to be able to live to fight another day perhaps thinking about the championship, perhaps thinking like I need to stay alive in this one so that I can make it to the end.
And I also think that's what Lewis did as well.
Where?
When he started off, he started off fourth. I mean, obviously, he was being very conservative. We know
Right.
Lewis can be very aggressive at the start,
Right.
especially if he's out in front. But he knows that he started fourth. He has 3 cars on him. He's getting a huge toes from the back, where you don't know if they're gonna they're not gonna break on time or anything like that. So it's one of those things where let me just get through the corner, and then I know I have a car fast enough to get through the field, especially if he's up there. So we didn't see the most aggressive Lewis, but knowing how he thinks and how he is, he definitely wanted to make sure that he got out of that melee going into turn 2, because it is a melee, and usually we get a lot of safety cars in Russia.
Yeah.
We didn't get one this year, and usually those safety cars are at turn 2, especially when you have all those cars going around you.
Could you imagine that was the actual? What Yhancy just said, that was the actual plan they had.
What?
That's the most. You know what I'm saying? Could you imagine? That's
I heard you, but what was the plan?
not that. Let's have a all right start, but let's try to break the toe. Yeah, we're gonna lose a few places, but remember, we have the best car. We're gonna overtake no matter what.
I'm sure that they
And
were.
it's a
They
track-
probably spoke about it.
And as a track
Sure.
that they, ever
That they
since they
dominated.
introduced
It
the
was
Russian
been
Grand
dominated by
Prix,
them.
they have won. For the most part.
That's like a tremendous confidence you have to have.
Yeah.
But guys, I could really go up there and jump like, but you go to lose your win. You go to get crashed on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and knowing that you're going to be, like you said, just be able to make up the places, and then
And-
Max started 20th.
He's known for making up places. Even started from the back when he has grid penalty, he always comes to the front.
Yeah.
So
Can we say that about Bottas this weekend? No.
Well, later on. We can. Yo, so there were
You guys really don't like both.
there was battles literally throughout the whole,
But we didn't see it.
but we didn't see it. We saw a George Russell pit stop when Norris overtook Carlos Sainz for the lead. Right.
Yep.
That was amazing. Thank you guys.
So the starting order coming out of turn 2, we say it was Sainz, right? Chile, Norris, and Russell.
Yep.
Hold the door, Russell.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he was starting the DRS train.
George Horder, Russell.
Yeah, and go ahead, was that's what I just want to make sure everybody knew, like, what was the running order, that we had 3.
After turn 2.
Yeah, these 3 young guns, in the top 3, and we thought that it might stay that way.
Something I wanted to mention too, science is all very, very, and we agree with underrated. Remember you mentioned that yesterday, because he is fast. He's shown he could be all over the place. He has improved wherever he goes to, but he doesn't get the credit, on that high.
Why do you think he's underrated? I think so too. I think.
Well, I mean,
your assessment.
We could talk about that, but maybe we should talk about it at the end when he's at the podium.
Okay.
All right, so we were complaining about the race director. There was a lot of battles all over the field. We didn't really get to see much because the race director was not, or the TV director was not all that terrific. Towards the end of the race, what was it, lap 48, really, it started kind of raining. We had Lando Norris in first place, Lewis Hamilton hunting him down, and then, like, way back, we had the rest of the field. I think Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, and then whoever else was part of that train. So what happens? I'm embarrassed to even admit, I'm screaming at the TV so that Lando Norris doesn't pit.
You almost broke Ruben's TV.
Hey,
Screaming at it.
Anyway,
I don't know,
we
just-
were on the edge on that point. Yeah.
Absolutely, because Norris and Hamilton was so far ahead of the field. To me, whoever,
I think it was over a minute, by the way.
yeah, no, it wasn't. It was like 40 seconds. So whoever pitted to me, and they kept saying that, oh, the track is getting better, or like whatever. They just kept going back and forth. So whoever pitted was going to lose to whoever could just stay on the track and just make it to the end, right? It was so few laps left. Didn't work out that way. Lewis Hamilton pitted lap 48. Guys started pitting. So like Max Verstappen, I'm going to go back to the pit graphic. Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo,
That's
George
when it became-
Russell, all
That's when it
lap
became over a
48.
minute.
I'm
right?
sorry, George Russell actually pitted first in lap 47, along with Bottas, and then 48. All the other, like the main drivers, pitted. Lap 49, Lewis Hamilton pitted after he had already said, "No, I'm not coming in. Think I
And
can make
ignored
it,"
it on one point as well.
and they forced him to come in. Lando Norris stays outside. Unfortunately, doesn't make it to the end on the slick tires. Is surpassed by a bunch of people. So I'm going to read off how many people. Well, let me go through this. George Russell pitted early, 47 into lap 48, went from P11 to P10. Bottas, 47 into 48, went from P13 to P5. That's the amount of places he was able to make up. Kimi Räikkönen pitted during lap 48. Old man Kimi, who we all forget, is still out there. First race back from COVID. P15 to P8. Able to score 4 points for Alfa Romeo, who went now from 3 to 7 total. Nikita Mazepin, P19 to P18. So we can forget about that guy. Doing his thing, right?
Go, Mass.
No national anthem for him.
Do it.
In his home race.
Yeah.
In that one place, okay? And that's only because somebody retired. Max Verstappen.
2 laps behind. Yes.
Did not pit lap 47 to 48, but pitted lap 48 to 49. Ends up, Sainz and Ricciardo overtakes them going into the pits, goes from P7 to P2 in that whole melee. He's the one that's the biggest winner, and we'll come back to talk about him. Carlos Sainz goes from P4 to P3, pitting in lap 48 to 49. Ricciardo 48 to 49 as well. P6 to P4. And that's kind of the end of the people that kind of really gained a lot. Everybody else just slipped down. What do you guys think of strategy in general there? We saw, like, for example, Perez went from P3 to P9. So it ended up costing him a lot. Norris, we saw him.
P1.
Yeah, he went from P1 all the way down to P8 at the finish. What do we think there as far as?
For Norris, was heartbreaking. Like, it was. In this situation, it's like a make it or break it. You have to. The way Mercedes got it, they followed the technology they have with them, and they trusted it. But it was a gamble that Norris did not wish to take at that time. Now, when it was already pretty much that you couldn't see, he's like, okay, yeah, we got to go into inters. But as he was at the beginning, it was like the drizzle, the beginning of the rain. He was slowing down, but he was going.
It's not that he couldn't see. It's that he couldn't turn.
He couldn't do anything. It was an ice skating rink for him. It became an ice skating rink.
He was almost passed by Hamilton a couple of times, like 46, lap 46, 47, where he went wide.
Yes.
I forget what turn it was, but it was getting to the point where it was dangerous.
And it was that last lap that they did, that he was just really was going off on every turn. That's what really killed it for him. 'Cause
Well,
that's what he
it
lost
was-
like all the time.
He had just passed like the pit entry, and then that's when it was like, all right, we got to pit because
But
everybody's pitting.
he got to go now.
He ended up pitting in lap 51, so that's 2 laps behind Hamilton, 3 laps behind Verstappen. His own teammate pitted lap 48.
Look, for example, you have Perez pitted lap 50, Norris 51, Alonso 50. Those were the 3 big losers.
And Leclerc?
Leclerc 51. Like, anybody who pitted lap 50 or 51 was way too damn late, and they lost a ton of places.
Yeah, they were trying to hold on to their track
Yeah,
position.
and they and what was tricky about that situation was that one part of the track was fairly dry, and then the other part of the track, once you start getting to like the turn 5 around there, that's where it was
Swimming
really
pool.
falling. It was
So
a
there was a
swimming
guy
pool.
that pitted early that did not work out for him. Yuki Tsunoda went into softs on lap 47 and then into intermediates on 49. Oh, man. Poor guy.
I didn't know that. I'm looking at this graphic. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? But the race. Yeah, what are you thinking? Whatever. Anyways,
The ones that got it right was perfect. The ones that got it wrong, oh my God, it was horrendous.
Yeah, and then all the teams had it. All the teams had the same information, so it wasn't like, it wasn't like they were flying. Any team was flying blind. There wasn't any team had better information than the other. I think it really comes down to experience. The Norris, you would understand. He's been leading the race. He's going for his first win. He feels that the rain is not so bad. But you also have to realize, too, is that it starts raining and you're on slicks. Temperature is very important when it comes to these tires. If these tires are not up to temperature, it's literally like, driving on ice for them. So what happens is that when it starts raining on one part of the track, the water will cool down those tires and you have no grip whatsoever. So it's not necessarily that they're sliding up because of the water. They're just sliding because the tires are cold.
Good point.
So obviously those with experience, and this is where the team has to step in and say no. Just exactly like what Hamilton and Mercedes did. Hamilton didn't want to come in. Hamilton said, no, I think it's dry enough. I think we can do it. The team overrode that decision and they said, no, it's going to get heavier. Come in for the inters now. Because obviously the faster you get on the inters, and as it starts raining, you have a better chance of winning the race.
The onboard with Beto was like that too. They asked him if, hey, do you want to come in? No, we're still good. I think like 2 turns on. Nah, we got to come in.
He had his hand out, like
trying to touch the rain.
trying
Like,
to
if it really
determine how
raining,
much rain it was. Yeah,
but that's where the experience comes in.
Yep.
And obviously, in Vettel's case, it was more the experience of the driver. In Hamilton's case, it was more the experience of the team. And obviously, I think we talked about it before the race as far as how sometimes the drivers can give you good input, but they don't have the entire story. And they don't have, what makes Mercedes very successful is that they literally have a well-oiled machine. Sometimes it's to their detriment because it takes them longer to make the decisions, just like it took them longer to get onto the slicks.
They're debating with each other.
Yeah, to get onto the slicks in qualifying. That killed Hamilton's qualifying, right? And that killed Hamilton's qualifying because he was coming in too late already, so he was rushing in. And on top of that, I'm assuming that the pressure of rushing in will cause him to drive off and crash into the wall, right? But this time they got it right. And this is the thing about Mercedes, and this is the thing about Hamilton. Even if they mess up, and as I mentioned earlier, they have a knack of coming back stronger and getting the results that they need to win the championship or win the race. And that's exactly what they did. The team said, no, it's going to get heavier. They have that experience already because they've won already 7 championships as a team, right? They said, no, come in for the inters, and that eventually is what won in the race. The opposite view, McLaren is not used to running at the front. Yeah. They spent most of the last years just fighting just to get to that point, to this point, and even they're not even front runners. They're more of a midfield runner that get an opportunity to win some races, which is good. It's progress. And then you have a young driver in Lando Norris that doesn't really have the experience. He hasn't even won a race yet. And he wants to win that race. And sometimes your enthusiasm takes over you and you don't make the right decision. Because you're not thinking about that your tires are going to get cold. And it's not really the water that you're slipping on. It's because your tires aren't hot enough to have the grip. So,
but that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
Like, I was cheering for him to win. Like, oh my God.
Oh, we all were, man.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it. Then the pouring rain came in. I'm like, oh no, he ain't going nowhere. Like, when it was a little drizzle, I was like, man, he's going to win. Yeah, that's the right call. Stay out, stay out, stay out. And then out of nowhere, it just comes. Everywhere.
Wellington was saying, he's like, he has to stay out.
You gotta
stay out. And I agree with him. Like, you have to stay out.
You gotta do it.
Yeah, but it just shows you is like, at the end of the result, hindsight comes in. It's like,
and then seeing him just slip out.
We also don't have the radar.
We don't have the
Eagles.
As the lap went by and you see him just slip on every corner, you're like, oh no.
What are you talking about? I saw the cloud coming in from over the sea in the camera. The race director was focusing on the sea.
On the Black Sea.
The clouds, instead of the race.
Yeah. I was saying that the actual track on the map looked like a little speckle. And all the clouds were on the Black Sea. I'm like, what the hell does the race director know about the Black Sea?
Oh my Lord. So the drama at the end resulted in what felt like a typical podium, right? It had Lewis Hamilton winning his 100th race win, which we'll get to as well. Had Max Verstappen coming back up the field after that pit stop. Second place, amazing. And then it had Carlos Sainz
Who pitted lap 48 also.
Hold on. There we go.
Give me that. Give me that. Give me that.
The smoothest of operators. So,
Show that chili, bro.
yeah.
Chili.
Vamos.
Vamos.
All right. So
Vamos.
let's take a step back here. Let's just talk about individual weekend performances, right? Lando Norris, bravo, right? Amazing weekend. Qualified in the wet, pole position, his first pole position, McLaren's first pole position in a long time, was it? Can I say that? I don't know. I don't remember the sprint race.
I don't remember, but
So I'm going to read you a stat, right? McLaren became the sixth team to achieve a pole position in the hybrid era, right?
wow.
Mercedes have achieved 113 of 153 available pole positions since we went to hybrid.
That's so crazy.
That's crazy.
That's dominance.
Ferrari has 15% of them. Red Bull 9.2. Williams 0.7. That's one. Force India also one. 0 point, or Racing Point, I should say. And then McLaren had their one. So, ouch.
Wow.
Amazing drive, heartbreaking result. The kid's good.
Yeah. I mean,
We didn't see the overtake because the race director, the TV director, but it's good.
he's
But what was happening in the race and the presence of you guys being in my house watching the race, it was not a snooze fest like we predicted.
Well, yeah.
not at all.
But Lando Norris was.
I'll tell you what, we've all predicted that Lando Norris, especially in the driver standings, would tumble because obviously we never.
Well, last year.
Yeah, I mean, but it's because his car is not as good as, let's say, not a Ferrari. It's not as good as a Mercedes or a Red Bull, but he's still in fourth, man, and he's ahead of Sergio Perez, and it's 139 to 120.
It's another guy we'll talk about.
Yeah, but he's like, I mean, just look at the driver standings, and he is driving lights out. He has not let up. He is consistently in the top 5. If he's not getting podiums, he's trying to win a race now. I mean, Lando Norris is the real deal.
He's sending his engineer to
arrived,
shut up.
and eventually, he's gonna get his race win. And he said it today on social media. Keep your head up, and his time will come. He said that. So
He actually had the fastest lap. So we'll throw this one out. He finished 7th. In Zandvoort, he finished 10th. In Spain, he finished 8th. Every other races other than those, he's been 5th or greater. Well, 14th in Spa, but that was Spa that really wasn't even a race.
I remember he had the crash too. So maybe he was out of his game.
In Hungary.
in Hungary, he retired. Yeah.
But the races that he's been able to complete, he has been
I could have sworn he had a crash in Spa though. During practice or quality, he had it. Remember?
that was
during quality.
That was during
But
quality.
that also messed up with his flow. That's probably the reason why the confidence wasn't there to be 100% balls out. You could say 'cause
for Spa?
no, for him, for Lando Norris, because you told me he finished 14th in Spa.
Spa there was no race, dude.
Oh my bad.
Come on.
The reason why he was in 14th is because he
My bad.
crashed in
Because he was back there.
qualifying.
Yeah, damn. Like, my bad.
You really gonna think that's a race?
Anyway.
No.
So
Really, bro? No, I'm joking.
once these
Now when he said, "Yo, Spa was the race." Oh yeah, that was the rain. Okay.
next year, once the cars are kind of reconstructed, I really feel like Lando Norris will be pushing to be like the Max Verstappen of last year that got the 3rd place, and then he'll be just getting better and better. Once the McLaren pushes up into the top tier,
Big time.
this guy, and they're gonna keep pushing because they're doing. McLaren has taken such giant steps.
Well, they have
future world champion.
They have a good team around them. Listen, I want to say yes to that claim, but we don't know who's gonna get the rule changes right. It's a big change next year, and obviously, you can be the best driver. As we can see, there's a ton of great drivers on the grid, but depends on what kind of car you got under you, man. And obviously, like Max has been driving lights out for the past 2 years, and this is the first year he has a good car under him. He has been able to fight for wins, but not as consistently as now. You know, same thing with Leclerc, race winners, but he hasn't had a good car under him since he's been at Ferrari. So it just depends, man. It just really depends.
Next season,
Is he championship material? I would say yes. But it's just right now I'm just looking at there's so many good drivers that we can say they're championship material. Young drivers at that.
Yes.
You have the George Russells, you have the Leclercs, you have Verstappens, you have you have Esteban Ocon who's up there too. But
I don't know if I would put Esteban Ocon in
but
that
I mean
class.
there's just a ton of talent going up, and you
Carlos
don't know.
Sainz.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz there's a ton of really solid drivers, and maybe all they need is that good car in order for them to contend for a championship.
meaning for next year's car to be up to par.
Who gets it right? And obviously there's
I think McLaren will.
Who gets it right, and also obviously the field hopefully not only the formula changes as far as the cars the way the cars are built, but the rule changes as far as the financials and the cost cap will bring that. It'll take a while, but it'll bring the field closer together. So maybe these guys, you can have 4 or 5 guys fighting for the world championship instead of just 1 or 2. But is he world championship material? He's showing that, yeah, for sure. He needs to get his first win, though.
Speaking of needs to get his first win, hit the drop. Carlos Sainz.
Again.
He deserves it.
Yeah, he does.
This is another guy, monster performance this weekend. Has been driving completely lights out. Ruben started talking about it earlier during the show, but he first year in Ferrari, not the easiest team to go to. Up against Charles Leclerc, not a bad driver to go up against, right? That is a talented young driver, as Yhancy was just going through. He is up 8.5 points on his teammate in a new team, adjusting to a new culture, adjusting to a new car, a car that Sebastian Vettel had a hard time adjusting to last year. How good is Carlos Sainz? Like, if you were to put everybody on an even, it would be hard to even like think about that. But like, if everybody was in the same car, like if it was IndyCar, like I feel like Carlos Sainz would. He's beaten. I tweeted about this earlier, or we tweeted about this earlier. He's beaten Hulkenberg. He's been obviously Kvyat. He's been Max's teammate to the point where they did not even get along so much that they couldn't promote him up to the Red Bull team. But he was good enough to show for Toro Rosso at the time to go to Renault and then McLaren and now Ferrari. But unreal. He is currently 6th place in the Drivers' Championship, nipping at the heels of Sergio Perez. He's only 7.5 points down of Sergio Perez in what's supposed to be probably the best car on the field right now, or on the track right now.
And he's ahead of his teammate.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, he's
definitely looking for it. He's definitely putting in the work for it. He moved to Italy.
What Carlos Sainz, his best attribute is that once he's up to speed with everything, he's very consistent.
No pun intended. Racing up to speed.
He's very consistent, and he's a hard worker. He understands the car. He is very hard on himself, even though he gets decent results, which is what you need, especially when you're a Formula One driver. You need to be critical of yourself because you want to get better every race. So even when we saw it last year when he had a chance in Monza, when he had a chance to chase down Pierre Gasly, even though he got second, which was a great result for McLaren at the time, he was still pretty upset because he couldn't win the race. And you've seen it, multiple times here where he gets a decent result, especially in this car, in the Ferrari, because the Ferrari is a car that, is hit or miss depending on the track that they're at. He always feels that he can do better. So he definitely has a drive. What is going to benefit Carlos Sainz in his career is going to be his consistency. It's not going to be his speed. I don't think he is as quick as a Max Verstappen. I don't think he's as quick as a Charles Leclerc. But he is consistent. So you can put him on par maybe with like a Checo or a Bottas, which would be very good second drivers, but and they can be team leaders in a midfield team. But could he be the quickest? I don't think so. But he definitely deserves a drive for a top team, and he's very consistent. And consistency can win you a lot in Formula One.
What makes you think he would not be, if he was in a top team, the quickest, or be able to be the top driver in the standings?
I've never seen a great lap from him, to be honest with you. You know, if you look at the qualifying results, obviously, especially when it comes to being quickest, as far as like being quicker on the track, I don't see the speed. He's great. He's better at race day.
He has it, though.
Yeah, he has it, but he's great. He's better at race day than he is in qualifying. And he's strong in the races. So he could definitely come out better. Obviously, you score the points on race day, so you can come out better in points. But as far as being like quicker, one lap pace, there's definitely people that are better than him. But
Not by much.
It's not by much, but this is Formula One, and
Much.
Even if it's 1/10 or even if it's 1/100th of a second, you're still faster because it's Formula One. That's what that's just the field that you're in.
But that's where he is, though.
Yeah. But I mean,
When the timing.
if you're trying to tell me over a one lap pace, if you're gonna take a Leclerc or Sainz, I'm taking Leclerc. If you're telling me a one lap pace, I'm taking Verstappen over Sainz. I'm taking Verstappen. I'll even take George Russell over Carlos Sainz, one lap pace. And obviously, we see how important qualifying is in Formula One because the higher, especially this is not IndyCar where you can overtake anybody. Formula One historically has been very hard to overtake. So you have to be a good qualifier in order for you to get up there and win races. The best drivers in Formula One historically have been amazing qualifiers.
Yeah.
Schumacher and Senna.
In him.
And Hamilton. So I mean,
But don't trash.
I'm not trying to trash him. I'm just being realistic.
No, give him some credit too.
But he's a great driver, and he's a consistent driver. And honestly, I think for Ferrari, which you guys know I'm a big Ferrari fan, they have a great driver lineup. And actually, I didn't know how it was going to work out, but the dynamic is working well, especially when you're trying to push a team forward. And Carlos Sainz has been a guy who has been to every team, and every time he's gone on a team, they have gotten better. Which was Toro Rosso before AlphaTauri, Renault, and McLaren. They've all gotten better as he's been there, and same thing is going for Ferrari.
I think this first year for Ferrari, he'll get better in that car as well. I think he has the pace. He's just off by a tiny bit on Max, which is one of the fastest guys now. When he was with Toro Rosso, he was not. He was lapping. He would constantly be just. I think that's the reason why he got out of the Red Bull program, because he would not be able to go march to the top kind of stuff. You know? Mm-hmm. So they were never going to promote him there. So he had to go pretty much find resources somewhere else. Yeah, because he would not.
He went his own way, but he handled that so great. That's the other thing. He's a professional. He handled that so great. He handled his exit from the Red Bull program great, which he was able to finagle a loan from Red Bull to Renault. From there, Red Bull didn't have a choice but to drop him. Went to McLaren after that, and now he's a Ferrari driver, man. Everybody
betting on himself.
There's nobody that would say no to be a Ferrari driver. No one.
Me.
Hater.
Lewis Hamilton, 100th win of his career, historic mark. Yep. Most wins for a driver in F1 history. The superlatives I don't think that there are enough to just kind of encapsulate just how incredible an achievement it is, the longevity that you need to have in the sport, the consistency that you need to have in the sport, just the overall greatness. He's also the greatest qualifier, right? The greatest qualifier in the sport, on the road to potentially winning his 8th championship this year.
Tied with Michael Schumacher for 7 championships.
Right now, yeah.
The only person to ever win 100 races.
Greatest driver of all time?
To me, yes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, dude has over 100 pole positions too. So, I mean, it's just insane.
Where are the tires?
He
has like a little tire factory in his house.
He is breaking all the records, and and not by a little. It's not like, all right,
not barely
I
making
think
it.
Senna has like what had 67 poles. I'll look up but it's just, I mean, it's just amazing. And I've always said this, and I said this last year, as he was approaching all these records, and we knew that he would eventually get to these records. You're watching history. You're watching one of the greatest ever. You're watching a Michael Jordan. You're watching a Cristiano Ronaldo. You're watching a Messi. You're watching a Tom Brady.
Yep.
You're watching one of the best to ever do it. Appreciate it. Don't hate, man. Because the guy is doing things that you will probably never see again, and if you do see it again, it's going to be a very long time before you see it again. And he's still going strong.
Remember last
like
year?
we said, as much as he has had his struggles this year, because this is the mark of a champion, guys. As many struggles as he's had this year, because I think this is the year that we have seen him make a lot of errors, and he's still leading the championship.
Remember last year that I said that maybe he was distracted? How'd that work out for me?
There you go. Don't count him out, man.
Don't say that again
If
this year.
you come for the champ, you best not miss.
Yeah.
This guy had a tire on his head two weeks ago.
Then afterwards, went to the Met
I went to
Gala.
the Met Gala here in New York, was running down through Battery Park City.
Yes.
I mean,
Keep up, Angela.
Yeah. Ruben, I know that's your boy. Do you have anything to add as far as...
So check this out. Lewis Hamilton, poles, has 101 poles. The next one is Michael Schumacher,
That's what he's got right now.
68.
68, yeah.
And Ayrton Senna has
65.
65. After that, Sebastian Vettel, 57. It's not even close. It's not even close, man. It's just not even close.
And this is the hallmark of a champion, right? So the Mercedes team is great in and of itself, but do you think it would be as great without Lewis Hamilton?
No.
He gets involved a lot as far as the development of the car and as far as, like, obviously the feel of the car itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's just, listen, you need these, and as we saw with the Schumacher documentary, and we saw with the Senna documentaries, these guys come into a team, and the team rallies around them, and they just make the teams better. And they're highly involved. They know everybody on the team. They make sure that everybody's pushing hard. If you don't have that leadership, you go nowhere. And we see that even with drivers that are not even up to caliber. If you bring a positive attitude and you want to win, it changes. And that's exactly what happens. Race wins. Lewis Hamilton has 100. Michael Schumacher has 91. The next one after that, Sebastian Vettel with 53.
Race wins.
He's almost double Sebastian Vettel's race win. And Vettel is one of the best of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, come on.
4-time champ.
Yep.
I'm just glad we're witnessing all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Because
Appreciate what
people
you,
in the
seeing.
Schumacher era, that's pretty much what they said. Oh my gosh, Schumacher was the greatest because they witnessed all of that. We're witnessing this.
I mean, who would listen at that time? Hamilton wasn't even close to being an F1, and at the time, Schumacher has 91 wins, and the only person who ever even came close was Sebastian Vettel, who was winning the championships right after that, and he's only won 53.
And he's won some since.
You get what I'm saying? So 53 to 91. Who thought that was even gonna happen, man? Who thought that any driver would even get to 100 wins? That's insane. And it's the same thing with the qualifying record. I mean, that's insane. It's incredible. GOAT, man. Greatest of all time.
All these records that were untouchable or unreachable.
And if he wins a championship this year, 8 championships, bro? Come on, man.
That's like Tom Brady. No, I'm kidding.
Appreciate it, man. And he's still on top of his game. It's not like he's declining. It's not like he's going no. He's still on top of his game. Any team will take Lewis Hamilton right now. Any team.
Hey, Bottas found a seat.
So That's Lewis Hamilton. There's 3 other drivers I want to talk about before we close out this show. Bottas is one of them. Yeah, he took the engine penalty. Yes, he was on historically his best track where he got his first win with Mercedes. Bottas was able to make up because of the melee at the end with the rain and etc. He made up 9 places to finish 5th. So he was 14th, running 14th in his best track with
The best
car for that track. See you later. Sayonara. Don't
Yep.
let the door hit you on the way out.
He still finished 5th.
He still finished 5th, but
It's the results that matter, bro.
I get you. Speaking of, it's the results that matter. Dude, how did we get here? Max Verstappen from 7th to freaking 5th. We talked about it earlier. He passed Sainz and Ricardo right at the like the most opportune time.
7th to 5th?
7 to 2nd.
Second.
7th to 2nd, yeah. 5 places, my bad.
Okay.
Alonso, who was ahead of him, pitted late. Perez, who was ahead of him, had to also pit late. So obviously they lost whatever advantage they had. But what a drive! What a team call! How do you like literally just pulling a rabbit out of your hat to just keep the championship close? We talked about Max Verstappen earlier, his cool, calm, collected demeanor. We talked about how he backed out of that almost accident with Charles Leclerc early in the race. I don't see any chinks in this guy's armor. I don't see any. I want to say this very carefully. I don't see the Red Bull machine screwing this up. Something else outside of Max and Red Bull has to lose them this championship. It has to be literally Mercedes taking it. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I am still trying to put a finger on how is Mercedes so close? Because it's literally, yeah. I mean,
Not
Red
Mercedes.
Bull-
How is Lewis Hamilton so close?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's maybe it. That it's Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
yeah. But even like that, it's like we said earlier. He's made a ton of mistakes, and he's still. I don't get it because Max has not put a foot wrong, and it's it's obvious. Yeah, I mean it's 2 DNFs, even though Lewis Hamilton has 1 DNF, but that was the same time as Max.
Yeah, and then guess what? In Baku, where Hamilton
He
made a
has-
huch error
He
with
has
the
7 race wins, bro.
Dude.
I don't get it. But they're still there. It's still there. Yeah. I mean, listen, and this is what we want, but it's just that we know. We've seen it. We see it with our own eyes. And obviously, the results don't reflect it. The Red Bull has been a better team. And the only thing that honestly, and the only and the reason why Red Bull is not winning in the constructors championship is it's Sergio Perez. But they've also sacrificed Sergio Perez in order to get Max's wins or maximize Max's.
Yeah, the second seat is cursed.
I don't think it's cursed, man. I think it's just Red Bull traditionally, obviously, when they have a great driver, and obviously they've won 4 championships, and they have been with a transcendent young driver, being Sebastian Vettel. Now you have Max Verstappen. They focus on that guy, and the second driver, they just don't put him as a priority. So right now, I feel that the way that Red Bull is gearing up is that they're just shooting for that driver's championship. And if they get the constructors championship, great. That's the way it looks like to me. And I think that's what's actually, regardless of all the bad luck, I think that's what's actually kept Max Verstappen right there with Lewis Hamilton.
I'm going to challenge that second seat thing. So, as Yhancy was saying, they developed a car towards
The number 1 driver.
their number 1 driver, right? Ricardo, who had been with the car, was keeping up. He was doing his thing along with Max, right? You bring in Gasly, a year. Actually, not even a year, right?
Half a year,
Albon,
year and a half.
Perez, not even a full season yet. So how do you expect, and I don't know how hard it is to drive, whatever, but how do you expect anybody to be able to compete with literally a young phenom in the sport right now, of the car tailored to the way that he could drive? I think that what we're going to see next year is going to be an indication when we see George Russell join Mercedes. We're going to see how quickly he is going to be able to adapt to that. And maybe it'll be a George Russell thing, or maybe it'll be just the drivability of the Mercedes car itself.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we've already seen it in Sakir, but it was a different track layout.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that, like I said, they're going to keep, Mercedes is going to keep it close enough. And then what's going to happen is, just like the Yankees back in the day, Mariano Rivera is going to come in and close it out. And Mariano Rivera is Lewis Hamilton. And he's going to close it out. We talk about holding the door. He's going to close the door on the Red Bull Championship hopes if they don't create a big gap between Turkey, U.S., and Mexico.
And let me put this out there, because
It's the consistency, man.
We've said this before, and I'll say it again, and we'll say it again. Well, I'll say it again. Lewis Hamilton is a better second half driver than he is a first half of the season driver. Now, he just got his 100th win.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure to get 100
It's gone.
gone.
The pressure to show up at the Met Gala.
Gone.
Watch out.
I think a lot's going to be riding on Turkey.
Yeah.
And then the last guy I wanted to talk about. 16 points in the last 6 races. As many as George Russell. Sergio Perez. What are we doing here? Right now, I think, if I look at the standings, Red Bull is down 33 points to Mercedes. Hamilton and Max are right there. So you mean to tell me that there's a 31-point gap? Well, I mean, yeah, there is a 31-point gap between Bottas and Perez. Is Valtteri Bottas 31 points better than Sergio Perez? I mean, the standings are the standings, so yes. But looking at him, do you think that he's just gotten lost?
It's qualifying. Good drivers in Formula One are good qualifiers, and they're good on race day. Sergio Perez is good on race day. He's not a good qualifier. Never has been a good qualifier.
And add on top of that the sacrifices that he has taken for Red Bull.
Valtteri Bottas, on the other hand, is a good qualifier, but he's not a good race day driver. But he qualifies high up there where he can keep position. It's hard to make a position in Formula One. So if you qualify low, you're not going to get points. You're not going to get the maximum amount of points. What helps Bottas is that at least, and we've seen it time and time again, he's not far off of Lewis when it comes to qualifying. Sometimes he beats Lewis when it comes to qualifying. So if he's consistently running 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st, he's going to get more points. Sergio Perez tends to qualify 5th or down. You're not going to get enough points. And on top of that, if the team sacrifices him, which they normally do for Max, then you're going to be worse off also. So it is what it is, man.
Monza showed that they just sacrificed him because he gave Max
That was one race, dude.
No, but I think I think if we concentrate on what they've done with him,
I mean, and honestly, we don't really know when he's been sacrificed or anything like that, but
or
they have done it before,
yeah.
and obviously they'll probably do it again. It's the Red Bull way.
Guys, anything else before we wrap this thing up?
The championship continues.
Yes, sir. So I'll read it off again. At Jump to Start F1 on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to follow us. Say hello. We're very active on race days for the Twitter. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher are the podcast platforms that we are on. Jump to Start Racing Podcast. If you just type us in, you'll be able to find us. We actually have a website as well, Jump to Start Racing Podcast, or jumptostartracing.com, www. We're also on YouTube. Say hello. hit the bell, the like, the thumbs up, subscribe, etc. That about wraps it up for us. Next race is Turkey in 2 weeks.
Sir.
We'll be back next week for the preview.
Trivia.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
All right, everybody. See y'all later.
Peace.
Peace.